Mr. Steele, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. How are you, sir?
Good, always good to see you.
I feel the same, Your Honor. Always.
You doing okay?
I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we were able to fit you in. Sorry you had to wait a minute. I appreciate your patience. Let me set up the case first. This is Position 20, case number 22 CP 208957, Jeffrey Williams. And I want to say good afternoon to you, Mr. Williams. I'm Judge Wolf. This is your felony first appearance. Good afternoon. We're doing this remotely because of COVID. You have the right to remain silent. You're presumed innocent, and you have the right to an attorney. Your lawyer, Mr. Steele, is on the call. So let me start with you, Mr. Steele. This is a first appearance. Do you want to be heard on probable cause or just bond?
We will be heard on bond, Your Honor.
Okay. So let me ask, is this your case, Mr. Smith?
Yes, Judge.
And is this part of that same indicted case or something different?
That is correct. It is part of the indicted case, Judge.
Okay, if you could announce that first, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, Judge. So these charges, these warrants stem from indictment number 22 SC 1822273 as well, Your Honor. Would you like me to go ahead and proceed with my position on bond as well, Judge, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. So it's the state's position that given Mr. Williams access to resources, and given that we're still in the process of apprehending everyone on that larger indictment, Your Honor, it's the state's position that he is a flight risk, as well as there's a clear risk to hinder the administrations of justice, Your Honor. Officers executed a search warrant at the home of Mr. Williams. They recovered large quantity of drugs, several firearms, one of which including a automatic switch, making it a fully automatic machine gun. And given the nature of these allegations of bond, Your Honor, we would respectfully request that you deny bond.
And I just want to understand, Mr. Smith, you're saying that Mr. Steele's client, Mr. Williams, he was indicted on that same 22 SC 182273 or not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And I thought that it was the state's position, per the delegation order from Judge Brasher, that this court, me being a magistrate court judge, that I don't have authority to consider bond. Is that the case, or are you saying that I do?
And just to clarify, Your Honor, with that indictment, that was a direct indictment. These are additional warrants that were taken out stemming from that particular indictment. Whether or not these new warrants will become a part of that indictment, a decision has not been made as of yet.
Got it. But they're within the four corners of indictment 22 SC 182273. These warrants are not part of that indictment.
That is correct, Your Honor.
It would require a re-indictment if the state chose to do so.
That is correct.
Okay, so you do agree that these charges have not been assigned to Judge Plainville, they're unindicted, and it would be for the court to consider today?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, I understand. And it goes beyond Mr. Steele's case with Mr. Williams, but I just want to know for future reference today, Mr. Smith, I appreciate the update. Position 18, Diamante Kendrick, position 19, Martinez Arnold, they're in the same posture, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, got it. And Mr. Steele, just to bring you up to speed as well, there was a co-defendant or someone related, Sergio Kitchens, who was on the calendar earlier, represented by Mr. Samuel. His case, though, for today was strictly the case that was indicted a couple days ago. That was a different situation. I'm going to treat this just like a regular first appearance. So with that in mind, let me go back to you, Mr. Steele. Do you want to be heard on probable cause, or do you want to just be heard on bond?
Bond, Your Honor.
Okay, got it. So the court does find probable cause based on warrants, Mr. Williams, for the following charges: possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of Schedule 3, 4, or 5 controlled substance with intent to distribute, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, possession of a sawed-off shotgun, a sawed-off rifle, I think in this case the allegation is a machine gun, dangerous weapon or silencer, unlawful for a person employed or associated with a certain organization to conduct or participate in that organization, unlawful for, and there are three.
His 18 cycles beginning in 2008, he was a multi-state offender with arrest from the states of California and Georgia. Last
My apologies. The screen kind of froze, and he left off with the judge saying 3 something. So there was a part that he missed.
Okay, well, let me just kind of back up. What I was saying was, sir, the court does find probable cause for possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of a Schedule 3, 4, or 5 substance with intent to distribute, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a machine gun. And then there are 3 counts about unlawful association with certain groups. I don't know, Mr. Steele, if you want me to waive sounding of what the actual charge is. I was trying to talk around it. Those are the 3 charges that relate to the first 3 charges. That was the last thing I said, sir. So I now heard from pretrial 18 cycles starting in 2008 out of California and Georgia. Ms. Gordon, do you show anything else?
The last arrest was November of 2018 for possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, purchase, possession, manufacture, distribution, or sale of marijuana. And that was in DeKalb County. No disposition listed, no felony convictions listed on the GCIC, nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what's the state's bond recommendation, please?
My recommendation is that Mr. Williams remain in a no bond status, Your Honor. I'll reiterate, he's at a significant flight risk given his access to resources. There's also a clear risk of hindering the administration of justice, given that we have not apprehended everyone on the larger indictment, Your Honor, and given he's also at a risk of committing additional felonies. As you see, within the last arrest, there was a possession of methamphetamines, and I believe officers also recovered that during the execution of their search warrant. So we would ask that bond be denied, Your Honor.
Do you show, though, that he has no felony convictions?
I believe that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you from the state. Mr. Steele, please tell me about Mr. Williams and any bond recommendation you have, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you for everything you do. Honorable Prosecutor Smith, thank you. Mr. Williams, good afternoon. Your Honor, Mr. Williams is 30 years of age. He is an incredible human being walking among us. He has grown up in rubble here in the Cleveland Avenue area. He has made it where he has performed musically on every continent in this world except for Antarctica. He has performed his music in front of as many as 300,000 people at a time. He is signed to a record label. You have members of the record label on your Zoom link now if you want to hear from them. He just got back from Norway, from performing in Norway, and he got back the Sunday before Monday when law enforcement officers executed a search warrant on his home based upon the grand jury warrant. I was there at that time, Your Honor. There were at least 10 people who were in the house with Mr. Williams. These items that are being litigated now before your honorable court for those charges, those unindicted charges, all come from the execution of a search warrant. We are not agreeing that we are responsible for any type of crime. Mr. Williams has never been convicted of any type of felony. I have defended him for at least 10, if not more years, Your Honor. He is not a convicted felon. His case in DeKalb County arises out of a show that he was performing on the Jimmy Fallon show. He was going to an airport in DeKalb County on a private plane. He's in the car with 2 other people, and at that scene of that traffic stop, on body camera, another person took full responsibility of any type of illegal contraband. The Honorable DeKalb County Superior Court Judge Adams heard motion to suppress. I have the honor of representing Mr. Williams, granted the motion to suppress. The state appeal, it got reversed, and I have been trying to get that case done with in DeKalb County. It's now 4 years old, and they have not shown any type of interest in moving the case. And I have letter after letter begging that this case be disposed of and Mr. Williams be cleared. Your Honor, Mr. Williams owns homes here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I don't disagree that people would consider that he has substantial resources. That is not a negative, that is a positive. He is not a flight risk. He has come back every single time from being anywhere located around this world. He would surrender his passport to me, although I believe law enforcement officers may have his passport, but if not, I will get that passport and I could surrender it to the sheriff, the court, hold it myself, whatever the court states. As far as interfering with the administration of justice, as argued by the Honorable Prosecutor, there is not a scintilla of evidence that Mr. Williams has done anything to try to obstruct justice or try to hinder people from turning themselves in or being arrested. In fact, when law enforcement officers came to his home, I was there, Your Honor, and telling firsthand, he was nothing but cooperative. He had his 14-year-old son with him at that time. In addition to that, the fact that the prosecution wants there is going to be no evidence. You can craft, if you deem it appropriate, a bond order that he cannot be around weapons, although he's lawfully allowed to do it, but for purposes of bond, you can craft that order. The fact that he never obstructed the administration of justice. He's always come back to court when required to do so, because I have defended him on those cases, and any issues dealing with any other IALA factors, including intimidation of witnesses, they are not here. We are going to fight this case, Your Honor, all the way through until the prosecution either surrenders or a jury reaches its verdict. And I would ask you to please set a reasonable bond with whatever conditions you want. Now, with all that being said, I am not immune to what you said earlier. I understand that you have no jurisdiction, I heard you say that earlier, to deal with the indicted offense, so I understand that even if you do set bond here today, which is what I respectfully request, Mr. Williams is still in custody because we do have a pending indictment and we're waiting for the Honorable Judge Glanville to set the hearing date for that bond.
Mr. Steele, two quick questions. One is, do you have a specific bond number in mind that you're asking the court to consider?
Yes, I would ask for a signature bond. There is no reason that Mr. Williams on these charges should have anything other than respectfully a signature bond. If you don't believe that that is appropriate, Your Honor, then whatever bond you believe to be reasonable, we will, I don't mind telling you, we will make the bond.
Okay, thank you. And also, just one last question, Mr. Steele, if you don't mind. You alluded to other people being on the call now. I leave that completely up to you. If you want them to be heard, if it's relevant to the issue of bond.
Mr. Williams' manager, record label, and he is widely popular, Your Honor. Mr. Williams he's like the Babe Ruth of the musical industry. So, and you just got on your screen, Your Honor, two people. I actually will vouch for them. They have been nothing but professional. I've known them for years, and that is the two people who I believe, if you could just raise your hands for the Honorable Court to see you, and if you have any questions, Your Honor, these are people, they are not convicted felons, they are business people, they are college graduates, and they have been around the world with Mr. Williams.
Okay, well, I do want to just acknowledge their presence here today. I always thank anybody who's here on a case. It could be someone here on behalf of the defense, it can be the victim, whoever it is. We always welcome everybody to the court, and I do consider your support of Mr. Williams as I consider bond at this time. And Mr. Smith, to be fair to both sides, do you have anybody on this call?
State does not, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd want to acknowledge anybody on either side of the case. But gentlemen, thank you to both of you. Now, I do want to just clarify, Mr. Smith, my understanding is that Mr. Williams, Jeffrey Williams, was indicted a couple days ago on the 22 SC Judge Glanville case, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And any bond that's to be considered on that case, per the delegation order from Judge Brasher, is going to go to Judge Glanville, and that's not before me today.
That's also correct.
Okay. And it's the state's position. You're asking for no bond. Mr. Steele's asking for a reasonable bond, preferably an unsecured judicial release. The reason for the state's request is risk of flight and considerations going to people who've not been arrested yet, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor, in addition to, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, Mr. Steele, I just want to be clear on this. Your client has no felony convictions. He does have an open DeKalb felony case from 4 years ago, so it's a while ago now. It's been up on appeal. It's back in the DA's office. Your perspective is it's not really getting any traction at this point, but the allegations are meth with intent and sale of marijuana.
There's a small amount. They're in a car. He's with two other people. The items are in a briefcase, and on the body camera, a passenger stated that that's my drugs. And
yes,
that's it.
Okay. Thank you both. You both do a great service to your clients, and it makes the court's job, I think, a lot easier to do. So thank you both. Now, let me get back to you, Mr. Williams. So the court does find probable cause for the listed charges, like I mentioned earlier, based on the warrants. And at this time, the court's not going to set a bond. I do find that you're a flight risk. And I do agree for bond purposes with the entirety of the state's argument. I will say also, though, the court is very strongly considering that you've got 22 SC 182873 related to this same investigation before Judge Glanville. And I don't want to restrict Judge Glanville from making a decision on bond in regards to everything so that he can balance everything. So that's the order of the court today. It's no bond for those reasons.
Your Honor, can I ask a question?
Of course.
You found a flight risk of a gentleman who has major ties to this community and grew up here, but then you stated that you don't want to bind Judge Glanville. Is it the order of your court that you want to pass this to Judge Glanville? Because your order of no bond will restrict Mr. Williams.
I agree. I don't know how else to say it. The court agrees with the state's argument for this bond hearing today that your client is a flight risk, that he has traveled extensively. Even if you turned in his passport, that would not restrict his travel outside the state of Georgia. He has a lot of support, it appears, outside the state of Georgia. It might be hard to get him back to Georgia if you were to leave the state, and I could not restrict his interstate travel. I also mentioned Judge Glanville to consider that there's an open related case that at this point does not have a bond. And so it also makes sense for Judge Glanville to consider everything and for him not to be hamstrung by any decision that the court makes today. So it's not passing the buck, it's making a decision today based on what's in front of me now.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
You can set a condition that Mr. Williams is on an ankle monitor and confined to an area and not leave the state. But I would ask the court to please reconsider, because what you're doing now is setting a precedent of a risk of flight when there is zero evidence. The man leaves the country because of work.
Well, I will also add that there's a risk of committing additional felonies for the reason that there's an open possession of methamphetamine with intent and sale of marijuana case pending, and that those are the same charges alleged here. Allegations in both cases. Mr. Williams, you're presumed innocent. I know Mr. Steele is already zealously representing you, but if we could put that on the order as well, that's no bond, risk to commit additional felonies as well. I appreciate your argument, Mr. Steele. Nobody does it better, but that's the order of the court. So any other issues on bond need to go in front of Judge Glanville down the road.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very nice to see you. And again, to the people on the call supporting Mr. Williams, today means the world to him, and the court appreciates you being with us here today. Mr. Smith, anything else for the state?
Nothing further from the state at this time, other than the additional 2 positions on the calendar, Judge.
Yes, and let's get to that in just a moment. Mr. Steele, anything else for Mr. Williams?
Not today, Your Honor.
Okay, and I don't think, Mr. Steele, do you have any other cases on the calendar?
No, sir.
Okay, very nice to see you. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, and Mr. Williams, good luck with everything.